Welcome to Run Jump Stomp. This week we're going to be looking at Steam, asking you to spend a little money before you can do anything. Mortal Kombat, asking you to spend a little money to avoid having to do something. As well as Star Wars Battlefront, making sure that you can't do something. That, plus the long play and more on this week's, which is April 21st, 2015. I'm Bill, your host, and thank you so much for listening to Run Jump Stomp. Alright, so let's take a look at the first story. The first story is Steam, and they're making a change, and it is a change that I think is a good one. If you want to be able to chat on Steam, you have to be able to spend, or you have to spend at least $5 through the Steam store. A lot of people would say, well, no, how can you be okay with this? Well, anybody who's ever used Steam knows that sometimes you quite often will get messages from random people, and they'll be asking you to try and trade items, which honestly, I know that there is a thriving community around the trading of items in Steam, but I am not part of that community. I don't understand it. These are virtual things, and unless you're actually trading a game, I don't see the appeal. Nevertheless, probably around 3, maybe 4 times a week, I get messages from people adding me to their friends list and then asking me, and I'm not sure why they're adding me to their friends list. I figure, well, maybe it's somebody from my WoW guild that I was in, or maybe it's somebody that I met in another game and they looked for my name in Steam and found me and were adding me. So I accept it, only to find out that they're a troll trying to get me to click on a link so that they can steal my account. Well, if you can't chat without spending money, that's going to disincentivize? I think that's the word. It's going to get rid of the incentive for people to try and do these things. Because what's really happening is people are going out and making a whole bunch of new accounts and then spamming a bunch of people to try and get what they want. If they take away the ability for you to make a new account and then spam people, maybe it'll actually cut back on what's happening. Usually you can, Valve said that the easiest way for you to identify a malicious user from folks who are genuinely using the trading service is they said that typically the accounts that are used for phishing have no investment in their longevity. That's what they said. So basically you should see that they probably have a very low years of service and or years of Steamness. I don't know what it's called. They'll also probably have very, very few achievements, because it's really just a bunch of spam that's coming through, and nobody needs that. So it's really good that they're doing this. A lot of people are going to be upset, but if you're using Steam, you're probably spending money through it anyway. So most actual people probably won't notice this change at all. The next story this week is about Mortal Kombat. Back in the 90s, I put a lot of quarters into Mortal Kombat. And then Mortal Kombat 2 came out. That was my actual favorite of the fighting games. I liked it better than Street Fighter, mostly because I liked the style of moves. I felt like I could do the moves better. I felt like there were less quarter circles and more in those games. You would do moves by doing like moving the joystick in a quarter circle and then pushing a button or something like that. I felt like in Mortal Kombat the moves were easier to do, and I am not a technical gamer. I'm not really, really great at stuff like that. So I liked Mortal Kombat because it allowed me to compete. Now, the thing that I was never great at were the fatalities. Fatalities were after you defeated your opponent, you could add insult to injury by inputting a certain series of codes before the their character fell down, and then they would do something horrible to you. I was never really good at it, and so most of the time I didn't spend time with it, but I still felt like I could compete with my friends in that game, even though if I lost, they were probably able to do the fatality on me because they were better with the controls than I was. Whereas with Street Fighter, I couldn't compete at all because I feel like those controls were a lot more technical than they were with Mortal Kombat in the past. The reason I'm talking about all this is because there's a new Mortal Kombat game out. It has DLC, which I'm fine with. I'm okay with games having DLC. I don't like it to be day one DLC, but I'm okay with DLC if it's clearly something that was worked on after the game came out and not just unlocking some nonsense that's already on the quote-unquote disc, even though a lot of games these days are discless. Well, the thing that they're selling is easier fatalities. This is completely bizarre. The whole point of the fatality was that you could show that you had the technical skill to input the commands in the right time and get everything right in order to perform the fatality. So now they're taking the skill, the technical skill, out of the fatality, which is really the only reason for it to be there, other than there was gore for the sake of gore so that they could sell to little kids. And when I say little kids, I don't mean like 6-year-olds, although I'm sure a lot of 6-year-olds who should not be playing Mortal Kombat probably will be, and that's a terrible thing, but what can you do? Selling it to people who think that a gory game equals a mature game, which is just not the case. So they sell these easier fatalities for a certain amount of money. I don't really know how much it is. I think it's like $3, but I'm not positive. Or I think it's like $1 a piece, or you can get a bunch of them. You can get a set of them for $3, or you can get more for more than that. And I'm okay with companies trying to make a buck. I prefer if games just come out and I buy the game and I own the game and I own everything of the game. But if somebody's going to do DLC, at least it's adding something to my experience. This isn't adding anything. In fact, it's making the experience of playing Mortal Kombat less fun. When somebody uses a fatality on you, you're not going to think, wow, that I can't believe they were able to pull that one off. I know that one has like 15 parts to it in order to get it to happen. Nope. Now it's just they just hit 2 buttons, and they had money, so they could use the fatality. I just think that's so lame. It's really, really lame. And then the idea that they're nickel and diming people to death, even though they're charging $60 for this game, that just seems wrong. Mortal Kombat, I wasn't really interested in the game to begin with, so it's not like they're losing a sale on somebody. I haven't played any fighting game other than Super Smash Bros. In years. But if I were interested in it, this would definitely reduce my interest in this game. What do you think? Do you think that paying for easier fatalities is a good idea, a bad idea, or are you completely indifferent and you still gonna buy it? Let me know by emailing me at runjumpstomp@gmail.com. Okay, if you're a nerd, and if you're listening to me, you probably are, then you're probably a fan of Star Wars. Most nerds are. I'm not saying that all nerds are, and if you're not a fan of Star Wars, you can certainly feel free to let me know why. But I am a fan of Star Wars. Now, this last weekend was the Star Wars Celebration. Now, I'm not going to get into all of the extremely cool things that happened during Star Wars Celebration this weekend, because that's really about movies and stuff. But what I am going to get into is the new game coming out from DICE Entertainment, Is it Dice Entertainment or is it just Dice? I can't remember. Well, either way, I think it's Dice Entertainment, but I could be wrong. They're putting out a game called Star Wars Battlefront. Now, Star Wars Battlefront is supposed to be a prequel to the new Star Wars movie, which comes out this Christmas. And Star Wars Battlefront is going to be coming out in November. I think it comes to the Xbox One first, and then the PS4 and PC later on. That being said, I probably won't be picking it up. I don't have an Xbox One. Very few of the games on there appeal to me. I don't have a PS4. I want a PS4, but really only for Final Fantasy 15. So I'm probably not going to be getting that. And if you want to play Star Wars Battlefront, you have to play it on Origin. So I probably am not going to do that either. I don't like EA's Origin nonsense. I prefer to play games through Steam. Yes, I know it is still DRM, but Steam stuff just works so much better. So I'm going to probably avoid this game that I would probably like to play. Now, the reason I'm bringing it up is because they released a trailer at Star Wars Celebration this weekend, and man, the game looks really good. My first question is, they showed some footage of the game, and on the bottom it said in-engine footage. Now, my question is, does that mean that it's in-game footage, or that it's footage that's generated by the game engine? Because maybe they are able to get better quality out of their engine if they severely limit where they're looking with the camera. So maybe the world was completely empty except for where their camera was pointing, in order for them to really up the textures and things like that in order to make the game look better. Is this what the game is actually going to look like when you're playing? That's the question, because if they had said in-game footage, I would probably have believed it. But because they said in-engine footage, that makes me doubt that this is what the game will look like. And man, oh man, does this game look good. It looks really good. Absolutely fantastic. It's supposed to take place between the Return of the Jedi and the new Star Wars movie. And I'm really, really looking forward to it. However, DICE released something on the 17th, a few days ago. They said that Star Wars Battlefront will not have a single-player campaign. This is a big letdown. For me, anyway. I know a lot of people really, really like to do online shooters and to compete against other people, but again, I'm not a technical gamer. I'm not good at that stuff. I'm okay, but I'm not terrible, but I'm not great either. And so that usually means that I'm either on the losing team or I'm being carried. One or the other. And that neither one of those is fun. And I also am not interested in playing with other people unless they're my friends. Many of my friends are PC gamers, and a lot of us don't even like... We try and avoid Origin stuff. And so most of us probably aren't going to be playing this. So if I was playing this, I would probably end up playing it with a lot of strangers. Those are not the people that I want to play games like this with, because most of the time it's teenagers screaming obscenities in your ear because you're not awesome, or whatever it is. Maybe I'm just too old. But anyway, DICE said that Battlefront is not going to have a single player campaign. They said that they'll have a few training missions, and that doesn't really interest me. I wanted to go through single player and enjoy the story, but I guess I'm not going to be able to. So how about you? Are you excited that you are going to be able to play this as an online shooter? Are you excited that this game is coming out, or do you not really care? Do you think I'm crazy for avoiding anything from Origin? And do you think I'm crazy for not wanting an Xbox One or a PS4? Many gamers probably think I am nuts. I like the Wii U and I like my PC, and those are really the two, I guess I would say, quote-unquote, consoles of choice for me, that and my 3DS. Mostly I do Nintendo stuff and Steam, and most of my games are on Steam. Nintendo stuff is just a little bit. Let me know what you think of not having a single-player mode in this game. This week in the long play, I've been playing Xenoblade Chronicles. Now, I haven't been playing it a lot because I've been playing a lot of Minecraft. But Xenoblade Chronicles for the 3DS is pretty cool. I'm not sold on the combat yet. I feel like it's hard to tell what's going on sometimes. I know that there's circles around whoever has the aggro, and then my guess is that later on the combat's going to get very, very cool, but early in the game it is not very compelling and it's not pulling me back. I did spend a bunch of money on this game, so I'm definitely going to be playing it. I'm saying way too much. Let's try that again. I almost said again. I'm definitely going to be playing the game, but I'm not going to force myself to play something I'm not enjoying. So far, I'm not really sold. I'm not hating it. The world is interesting. The idea that these people are living on the back of these giant monsters that had been fighting for a really long time in the past, and it's basically it's technology versus like nature. I like that. I think it's cool. The voice acting isn't horrible like in most JRPGs. A lot of JRPGs, and I don't think it's the fault of the voice actor, it's the genre. The genre almost requires all of the guys to sound a certain way, or all of the girls to be very breathy when they talk. I just can't stand that. And most of the time when I'm playing a JRPG, I turn the voice off. Whoever's doing the voices in this particular game, I feel like they're doing a very good job, and the soundtrack is really, really good. I'm not going to say that I recommend that you run out and get this. I never have played a Xenoblade game before, so this is the first experience that I've had with one. But if you're looking for a JRPG, take a look at some videos on the internet and see what you think of the combat system. And if you have played it before, let me know what kind of things. Maybe I'm thinking of this the wrong way. Just the combat does not grab me. It doesn't feel like I'm really getting into it. I'm probably about 3 hours in, maybe a little less than 3 hours in. And if you think that I'm like right there at the edge, let me know what I should be looking for. Maybe I'm doing it all wrong. That's runjumpstomp@gmail.com, or hit me up on Twitter. This week on Wishlisted, I'm looking at a game called UnEpic. Now, it's found in a few different places that I actually play games. It's found on the Wii U, and it's also found on Steam, and I'm not sure where I'd like to buy it. It is an action indie RPG, and the elevator pitch for the game says that Daniel was just an average guy. He was a great video game player and a big fan of sci-fi movies and a novice RPG player. In the midst of an RPG, he was teleported to a castle. At first, he thought he was having a massive hallucination, eager to keep playing within the RPG to create his own adventure. He decides to go along for the ride until delirium comes to an end. I won't read the rest, but man, it sounds fun and it looks really good. If you have played UnEpic, please let me know where you played it and what did you think of it. I haven't really talked to anybody that's played it, but it looks really, really fun and it looks original, and I really like originals. It's definitely an indie style game. It didn't get like the greatest score on Metacritic, although that doesn't mean that it's not a good game. Metacritic is not the end all be all of games. But what did you think of it? It's only $13 on Steam, and I think I saw it on the Wii U for about the same price. So price is not really going to be an issue for one way or the other. I'm just not sure where I'm going to buy it. That's all for this week of Run, Jump, Stomp. Thank you so much for listening. Background music this week was Mr. Rogers. The title of the track was Baru and can be found at the link of the show in the show notes. If you want to be part of the show, please feel free to email me. That's runjumpstomp@gmail.com. You can also get a hold of me on Twitch, YouTube, and Twitter at runjumpstomp. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next week.